It is Friday, June 25th, 2010, and you're watching This Week in Linux News. Alright, so it was a Google heavy week, guys, so let's go ahead and get started. Earlier this week, Google released their Google CL, Google's command line utility. This is a Python-based app that allows users to make Google data calls from the command line. It has support for Blogger, Picasa, YouTube, Google Docs, Contacts, and Calendar. I'm not sure exactly how useful this will be to non-terminal based users, but it's still a really cool idea. Moving right along, on the 22nd, Google decided to make Google Voice public to the US. Yes, if you're not familiar with it, you can go to voice.google.com and sign up using your existing Gmail account. They will give you a phone number wherever you are in the US. A lot of area codes have already been taken up because this has been available for a while now. As an example, I was looking at area codes in eastern Kentucky where I grew up, and there are none available there. But that's okay. With the grand majority of cell phones supporting long distance for free, you might as well take an area code wherever you want to go. And as a shameless plug along with that, I've actually picked up a new phone number using Google Voice for This Week in Linux specifically. It is 850-270-TWIL. So I'll put that number down here at the bottom of the screen. Just give me a call, leave me a voicemail. In addition, Google's been hinting around that they're going to be integrating Google Voice with Gmail, so from your Gmail you'll be able to make calls to anyone in the country. Now let's talk about Google Android just a little bit. On June 23rd, Android 2.2 released, and the source code came with it. At this point, it's just a matter of time before it starts hitting devices, and hopefully the x86 project for it will be updating soon, because I'd love to try this out on my netbook. Speaking of Google Android, they've demonstrated the fact that they can actually remotely delete applications now. 2 applications were created by researchers at Tipping Point, showing that there is the ability to have malware for Android. Well, Google's gone ahead and deleted those from the remote devices. They were already pulled from the Android market a while back, but now Google's showing, hey, by the way, we can pull things from your device as well. They're not using it to be evil, of course. They're just using it right now to show that they can do it. Hopefully they don't have a reason to do it in the future. In addition, the Google team were really busy on some Chrome updates this week. There is, of course, a new development version. There's a new development version all the time, but they fixed a bunch of critical security flaws. There's been integrated Flash support for a little while now, but now it's actually enabled by default with version 10.1. They've implemented an extension sync, so if you move from one system to another, from one operating system to another, it should try to sync your extensions, but it's still a bit buggy and shaky at this point. And they've added native PDF support using the Netscape plugin API. This means that you won't have to use Adobe's Reader anymore in the browser unless you really want to. Alright, I think that's all the Google news for right now. Let's go ahead and talk about the new version of Firefox that just came out. On the 22nd, version 3.6.4 of Firefox released. This adds a level of protection so that when Flash, QuickTime, or Silverlight crashes, Firefox itself doesn't completely lock up. I've had this happen I don't know how many times. Flash will stop responding, so the entire browser just goes down. They also fixed about 225 bugs, 7 of which were considered vulnerabilities, and 4 of those were considered to be critical. So a lot of great work out of the Mozilla team there. Moving right along on the whole cell phone voice over IP thing, Skype has released their Skype SDK, which they're calling SkypeKit. A couple of months ago I talked about the idea of an open source version of Skype. This is about as close as I think we're going to get, and this is actually what I suggested at the time. They've released an SDK, which is basically a headless version of Skype, which will allow other applications to connect using Skype, to view your contacts, to make phone calls and stuff, without having to have a full GUI dedicated to it. This will allow Skype to be integrated into any application, which should make the user experience a whole lot more interesting. Let's keep rolling, lots of news to get through. VLC 1.1.0 released on the 22nd, and their big focus for this one seems to be HD content. They improved HD performance by, they say, 40%, but they also added support for WebM, the HTML5 codec. In addition, they added support for Lua extensions, and they removed like 10,000 lines of code, which is supposed to improve the performance overall. The bad part about that, they removed Shoutcast radio support, which is going to make a lot of people upset, but apparently there was a conflict between them and AOL and some licensing issues. Oh yeah, one quick thing, Mandriva found an investor, so they're going to be okay. Let's wrap up with a little bit of Linux-based cell phone news. Nokia has announced the pre-alpha for MeeGo for cell phones is coming on June 30th, with a full productized version coming in October. The N900 is of course going to be getting it first, since that's already available, and according to CNET, Nokia is going to be moving all of their future N-series phones to MeeGo. Are we really surprised by this? No, they're helping create MeeGo, so why not use it? In addition, the Droid X was announced for Verizon on the 23rd. It's going to be running Android 2.1 with 2.2 coming later in the year. It'll have a 4.3-inch touchscreen, an 8-megapixel camera that will do 720p HD video at 30 frames a second, supports a ton of audio and video codecs out of the box, it has 802.11n wireless, and it can serve as a 3G mobile hotspot for up to 5 users. I should also mention that it comes with 8GB of pre-installed memory, a 16GB microSD card, and it supports up to 32 gigs of microSD. This phone is $199 after a $100 mail-in rebate and should be released in the middle of July. I've got to say, if I weren't on AT&T right now, that's what I'd be looking forward to the most, and quite frankly, I'd be willing to drop my AT&T plan for this. This is the iPhone 4 competitor to watch out for. But that's all the news I've got for you today. As always, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Alright, it's self-serving question of the day time. I use AT&T, like I said, and I'm looking into some other services. What's your opinion of Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, some other services like that? Let me know in the comment section below.